I thank you for that demonstration today that you guys did, because in that moment, your sister had lost everything, but she needed her Chayil sister of strength and of wealth, efficiency, ability, of kindness, and of love to help her through this situation. And so Ruth, what we're going to do with Ruth is we're going to actually walk through the chapters. I didn't even have one particular scripture. God was like, no, we're going to actually walk through this thing together. We're going to walk through the book of Ruth together. And as we walk through Ruth, we will actually see why Ruth is not only a Chayil woman, but she's the Chayil woman that Proverbs 31 is actually referencing. And so what we're going to focus on for our virtue today is virtue. So how do we be virtuous women? Virtue, by definition, what we're going to go by today, the definition of virtue will be moral excellence. Moral excellence. Then what is excellence? Excellence is the very best, the quality of being outstanding. Ruth, her name means friend, camaraderie, companion, and vision of beauty. And I'll say that again. The name Ruth means friend, camaraderie, companion, and vision of beauty. And you will see how, as we go through the text, you will see how she actually lived her name. And when I researched it a little more, on one commentary it says people with this name tend to be a powerful force. That's Chayil. Chayil is a force. They tend to be a powerful force to all whose lives they touch. They are capable, charismatic leaders who often undertake large endeavors with great success. They value truth, justice, and discipline. And this is from just the name, Ruth. So when we go and we study and we read through Ruth chapter 1, we're not going to go through the whole chapter right now. It says we learned that she was a Moabitess. She was a Moabite woman. So she was born in an enemy nation where they worshipped idol gods. Well, at that time, while she was born, and she's living with her family, Elimelech, he lived in Bethlehem, and a famine struck the land. They didn't have any food. So as the man in the head of the house, he tells Naomi, you, myself, and the boys, we're going to move, and we're going to go all the way over here into Moab. So when I looked at that, I said, there was a famine, and this man humbled himself to go to an enemy nation where there was food, just so that his family could live. So I looked at him and I said, okay, that's a lot of courage and humbleness. I said he wasn't prideful. But as you read further, you realize that they didn't forsake their God. They still served the Lord. And they served God in an enemy nation. So imagine how much pressure they were feeling while they were there. Imagine the words and the slurs that people may have said to them in that area. Why are you here? You're from Bethlehem. Why y'all over here? It's almost one of those things where they start set tripping. You on my turf. Why are you over here? So it was kind of like a hostile environment in their time. And so while they were there, he felt led to release his sons to get married. And they married Moabite women. So they were Moabites. So they married them. And while they were over there, this is all still in Ruth chapter 1. While they were over there, Elimelech, he passed. So then after he passed, the sons passed. So now there are 3 women, Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah. They are all now widows. Now Ruth, she could have just been like, you know what, I'm done with this and I'm going back to be with my family. But she decided to live her life as a Chayil woman, a virtuous woman. So when this famine and everything began to happen and they passed, Naomi says, you know what? I'm taking on the name Mara, bitterness. The Lord has struck me. I have nothing else. So Orpah, you go home to your family. Ruth, you go home to your family, because I have heard that the Lord has now blessed Bethlehem and there is food there. So let's go ahead and go our separate ways. It's been real. Let's go our separate ways. They all cried. Orpah left, and I wondered to myself, She left, but Ruth stayed. Why? So then in my mind, because the text doesn't say, but in my mind I said, well, maybe they weren't as close as Ruth and Naomi were. Because sometimes when you marry into families, you're not as close with your mother-in-law. I've heard all kinds of stories where, hey, we're best friends, we get along, I can't wait to go to my in-laws' house. I've heard stories where I can't stand my in-laws and we have to go for a weekend and I don't know what I'm going to do. So in this case, I figured, I said, well, maybe she wasn't as connected. Maybe the two did not become one when she married her husband and she was just like, you know what, I love you, but I'm leaving. But instead, Ruth said, no, I'm going to stay with you and I'm going to serve you and go with you where you go. And I looked at that and I said, she was right there in Moab where she could have easily just went left and went back to her family. Most of the time in our modern lives and in modern day times, when there is a divorce or separation, when we have lost a loved one and someone has passed, that person typically goes back to their immediate family and spends time with them. But in this case, she didn't go back because she loved her mother-in-law dearly. And I mean, she dearly loved her. So she said, well, wherever you go, I will go. That's what she said. She said, where you go, I will go. And so when she was telling her, she says, you know, my name is now Mara, and I am bitter. Ruth spoke Chayil love and wisdom to her. And if we go to Ruth chapter 1, verses 16 to 17, and we're going to compare it to Proverbs 31 and 26. So Ruth 1, 16 and 17, and I'll read from the New American Standard Bible. She says, do not urge me to leave you or turn back from following you. For where you go, I will go. And where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. Thus may the Lord do to me and worse, if anything but death departs you and me. And then if we go to Proverbs 31, and we're going to look at verse 26. Thought I had it marked. Give me just a moment. All right. Verse 26, Proverbs 31 and 26 says, she opens her mouth in wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. I had to step back and think about even just now when we did our interaction and we did the little skit. My sister says, if I have, you have. That's exactly what you told her. You said, if I have, you have. If there's food in my pantry, there's food in your pantry. And if you have God, then you will be all right. We will make it through this. That is a Chayil woman. That is building sisterhood. That is love. That is wisdom. That is friendship. That is virtue, moral excellence. You have a high moral standard. It's no sister left behind. Just like they say no child left behind, it's no sister left behind. Because we are in this together. So we're not turning our backs on one another. That's what she's basically telling Naomi. I love you. I'm not turning my back on you. We are going to go through this together. And at that moment, that's when reality begins to sink in. Because at that time, your wealth was determined on whether or not you could bear children. Well, Naomi no longer has children. So her wealth, her value has gone down. Not only does she not have children, she don't have her sons anymore. Ruth doesn't have any children at all. So now, think about it. Now I'm wondering, they're all like, oh, so they coming and they're traveling over here to Bethlehem, and she's been married to her son. Is she barren? Can she not have kids? Well, she used to serve the any gods, and they were serving and worshiping them. So now they're considered among the lowest class because they have no one to protect them, no one to fight or guard for them, no one to provide for them. They have no children and no family. So they are really relying on one another and relying on God. And a lot of times we find ourselves in that situation. We have family, but sometimes things happen and we feel like we are all alone. We have nobody to fight with us, to help provide for whatever the situation may be. And it's like, I can't even call my mama for this. I can't call my sister. I can't call my cousin. So who do you call? You call on the Lord. You let him fight for you, and you figure out, okay, God, how am I going to work through this? So at this point, with them being at their lowest, I began to read some more. And as I went to Ruth chapter 2, verses 2 through 7, I see where not only did they go back to Bethlehem, but Ruth began to demonstrate Chayil efficiency and wealth. And so when I read 2 through 7, and I'll read them to you and we'll walk through it. Verses 2 through 7 of chapter 2, it says, Now Naomi, or verse 2, and Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, Please let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after one in whose sight I may find favor. And she said to her, Go, my daughter. So she departed and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the portion of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. Now behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, May the Lord be with you. And they said to him, May the Lord bless you. We're going to start right here at verse 4. She took initiative and she asked her mother-in-law, she said, Well, since you have a kinsman here and they have land and it's harvest season, because they went back in harvest season where they were getting the barley and the grains and getting the harvest. She said, May I go out and work in his field? And in Proverbs 31, about verses 13 through 15 and 27, it talks about the Chayil woman and how she works and her house does not go in lack, and that there is provision. Ruth humbled herself. She swallowed her pride, and she began to work. Not only did she just work and she went into the field, but she worked from sun up to sundown. Because when you read a little further in verse 6, it says, The servant in charge of the reapers, or verse 5 says, Then Boaz said to his servants, Who is in charge of the reapers? Whose young woman is this? And the servant in charge of the reapers replied, She is the young Moabite woman who returned with Naomi from the land of Moab. Verse 7 says, And she said, Please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. Thus she came and has remained from the morning until now. She has been sitting in the house for a little while. I said, she was very courageous and bold. The reason she was courageous and bold was because they would leave at that time with the fields. They would leave they were instructed to leave the four corners alone, to only go and glean in the middle. The four corners were for the strangers and for the widows and people who did not have anything. They were able to go to the four corners and glean and get something and get what was left. They were able to go after the reapers. However, in those fields, not only was it dangerous, but sometimes women would be raped. Sometimes they would be molested because they know, hey, they out there and they don't have any help or anybody to fight for them, so I'm going to go out there and go get what I think belongs to me. So she put her life on the line and she went out there and said, you know what? We have to eat. We don't have anybody else to do this for us. So will you please allow me to go out here and work? She worked so hard that Boaz noticed. And he said, who is this woman? She's working and she's doing who is she? And where did she come from? When you are at work and you are working, are people asking, who is she? She's a hard worker and she's working at excellence. She's not complaining. Do we complain at work? I do sometimes. I'm not going to sit here and lie because I do. But are they saying that she's negative Nancy? Or is she saying, okay, you know, that's right. It is a lot going on right now, but her work ethic speaks for itself. She gets everything done. She meets deadlines. She performs better than expected. Can we say that's what people are saying about us? And then to top it all off, are they saying, but something about her is different? Is your light shining? Are they able to see the glory of the Lord that is living on the inside of you? And are they able to see it in your heart? So when you continue to read, Boaz not only notices her, and he not only does he see her humbleness, but then he says to her, he says, you know what? You can stay here in my field and work, and I've instructed the servants, the male servants, to not touch you. So now he's stepping in as her protection. Now he's stepping in as her shield and as her guard. He's saying, I'm telling them not to touch you So stay here and work in my field. And then when we finish, he said, you come over with my maidens and you get something to eat. And after you finish eating, you take your mother-in-law some too. So he didn't send her empty-handed. He sent her home with a full stomach. He sent her home with leftovers, and he also sent her home with the things that she were gleaning from the harvest. So in Ruth chapter 2, verses 11 through 12, I was wondering, I said, well, why would he do all of this? And I read in verse 11 says, Boaz replied to her, all that you have done for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband has been fully reported to me, and how you left your father and your mother in the land of your birth and came to a people that you did not previously know. May the Lord reward your work and your wages be full from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge. So we abide under the shadow of the Almighty. We find safety and refuge under his wings. He's speaking a blessing over her, and he's telling her at this moment, your reputation has preceded you. It has gone before you. I have heard about you before you have even gotten here. So when I read Proverbs, because I said, well, let's compare it. When you go over to Proverbs 31, and I look at verse, let's go with verse 11 through 12, and then we'll look at 31. It says, the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. And then verse 31 says, he give her the products of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. Her works have begun to praise her because of the things that she has done, because of the provision that she has given for her mother-in-law, and because of how she has stuck beside her and with her. So if her work has preceded her, her reputation has preceded her, we have to stop and ask ourselves, what is our reputation like? Are we really demonstrating this woman, this virtuous woman, this noble woman that Proverbs 31 is about? Because she was such a virtuous and noble woman that in the Jewish Bible, the book of Ruth is right after Proverbs 31, just to give you a model of how a woman should be and how a woman should act.
That's good.
So then I had to self-check. I said, hold on, Phoenicia. I said, her reputation preceded her. You know, sometimes your reputation wasn't always the best. And so now, even before I even got to this lesson, but even after reading this, I said, wait a minute, I got to make sure for real now my Chayil reputation got to be like this. So when I come in the door, they like, oh, I heard about you and the things that you've been doing for the Lord and your works. I need people to say, hey, this is a Chayil woman of God. This is a woman of excellence. This is a woman of strength, a woman of peace. She is noble. Yes, she is kind. She is respectful. She is well-mannered. She is short-tempered. That's what we need people to be saying about us. This is a praying woman, a God-fearing woman. She is a loyal woman. We need to be like Ruth, where our reputation precedes us, and we're saying, hey, when they come in the door and they're saying, oh my gosh, is that you? And then you be like, but it's just me. My name's just Phoenicia. I'm just coming in. But you get excited because, hey, you know that you're living your life the God way, the God-fearing way. And so, in Ruth, we're going to kind of bounce back and forth. Ruth chapter 4, verse 15, just to talk about her as we're talking about her reputation. Ruth chapter 4, verse 15 says, may he also, is it 15? Okay, may he also be to you a restorer of life and a sustainer of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons has given birth to him. She is better than a woman who has had 7 sons. We just talked about how your wealth was based on whether or not you had children and whether or not you had sons. The more sons that you had, the better your reputation, the greater your wealth. Ruth did not have any children at that time. She didn't have any. But they said that she was better than a woman with 7 sons. I said, how could this be? Where am I missing the mark? Where you can say, she is better than a woman with 7 sons. What is it that she is demonstrating? How is she walking and working where somebody can look at that and say, her value is worth far more than rubies? It's worth far more. Right. So you have to sit back and do another self-reflection. And so when you turn over to Proverbs 31, verses 28 to 29, the parallel to that says, her children rise up and bless her, her husband also, and he praises her, saying, many daughters have done nobly, but you excel them all. Many women have done well, but do you excel them all? Are you better than a woman who has had 7 sons? Are you that blessed? Because that's what they were referring to. She's more blessed than a woman who has been blessed with 7 sons. So what is your reputation? Because our reputation is everything. Our name is on the line. One wrong thing, one wrong attitude, one wrong slip up will ruin our whole reputation, and it will take our whole lifetime to try to build it back up. It doesn't matter how many people I pray for, how many people I preach to, how many people I prophesy to, how many times I dance and shift atmospheres. It does not matter how many times God uses me to do any of those things. If I have one slip up, that can mess up and ruin my whole reputation. So when I looked at this, I said, oh God. I said, this is some heavy stuff, because it makes you go in and look at it more and say, okay, where can I be strengthened? What do I need to work on here? How can I fix this? And so as you continue to read and we get to chapter 3, this is when Boaz redeems Ruth. This is where we get to the point where the story begins to shift, because see, everybody likes to talk about, oh, Ruth and Boaz, and he came and swept her off her feet, and it's just a happy love story, and it's about marriage. But the book of Ruth is bigger than that. The book of Ruth is a parallel. It shows you how to be a woman. The book of Ruth also shows how Jesus loves his children even through Boaz, because as we go even further, we'll see how people will turn their back on you, but he still looked past her mess and her past and loved her just as Jesus did. So it's so much bigger than just a book about love. It's bigger than a love story. And so when we read chapter 3, Naomi she instructs Ruth. She says, take off your mourning garments and your weeping clothes. She says, take it off. Bathe and put on your best clothing before you go to the threshing floor. When they mourned, bathing was not an option. Everybody knew that you were mourning. But she told her, she says, well, I'm telling you to take these garments off because it's time for you to move on. I feel that it's time to move on. And when I looked at that, I said, her mother-in-law was very, very strong, because at this point she's telling her to get over the death of her son and move on. She's saying enough is enough, to get over this. I believe you have grown from this place. And so she tell her, go down to the threshing floor. Well, the threshing floor symbolically is a place of blessing, and it's a place of judgment. And at the threshing floor, that's where the wheat is separated from the chaff. And so the men were typically down there overseeing it, and they would have some mules there that would be going, and they would be trotting it. And so as the wind would blow, they would throw up the wheat, and they would throw it all up. And when they would throw it up, the wind would blow, and it would separate the chaff from the wheat. And so that was the winnowing process. Well, a lot of men were there, and because it was the harvest season, when they were down at the threshing floor, a man would always sleep there. So this is why Boaz is sleeping there. They would sleep there to guard the harvest from the thieves. So as they're asleep, he sleeps. She's telling him, I want you to go down there, but when you go, take these garments off, because Boaz will be there and he'll be sleeping. But when she said take the garments off, I stopped for a moment because I had to look. I said, okay, we're going to the threshing floor. What is this? And God says, no, she's going to her place of blessing. I said, okay. I said, but what is it? He says, but it's time. It was more than just taking off her garments of sorrow. I said, well, how does that apply to us? And he says, it's time to take off those garments of bitterness, unforgiveness, mourning, grief, sickness, sorrow, hatred, envy, malice, strife, jealousy, division, anger, betrayal, pain, insecurity, and unworthiness. It's time to take all of those garments off, because we as women have suffered with something from that list at some point. He says, now when you take those garments off, then you put on, because remember she changed her garments. He says you put on the garment of hope, peace, redemption, love, forgiveness, joy, power, courage, strength, faith, gratitude, loyalty, mercy, worship, and servanthood. You take all of that off to put on this beautiful garment. A garment of many colors that has some status to it, some stability. When you put that garment on, now they're saying, ooh, now that's a bad Chayil woman. She is fearless. But if we have on a garment of fear and insecurity, nobody is believing in the God you serve. Nobody is believing that we can pray our way through this situation, because every time you turn around, you walking around, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it today, Lord. I don't even know if this paycheck going to stretch. My light's getting cut off, blah, blah, blah. Where is your faith? Do you trust me? And have you put on that garment of worship to live a life of worship? Because it's not just coming in with your brothers and sisters, but it's living this thing out. It's having a relationship with me day in and day out with your prayer and with your fasting and with your reading and building. Do you have that garment of servanthood where you are serving your brothers and your sisters and not having the diva spirit where everybody should bow down and serve you? Are you just like Ruth and serving others and getting over yourself? Because that's what it is. Ruth got over herself. She got over the fact that she lost her family. She got over the fact that she's lost her husband. She got over the fact that, yes, she used to serve an idol God. But look at me now, because now I'm serving the living God. So this is where she is. And so after she has put on now her Chayil garment, her official garment, now it's time for her to go forth and obey what Naomi has told her. She has now told her, when you go down to the threshing floor, and after he is drinking, he is eaten, uncover his feet and lay at his feet. Now, modern day times, when you look at it the first time, you say, did she just tell her to, like, in a roundabout way, go and lay with him? Like, what does this mean, uncover his feet? But when you research it, uncovering his feet meant that she had a need, but what happened was, in their time, it was modest for you to lay at his feet. If you laid next to him and parallel to him, then that meant you wanted something else. So then that was you being nice and, other words, not promiscuous. So, right, professional, promiscuous. I'm trying to choose my words wisely being recorded, but you were being promiscuous. So, in this case, Naomi did not damage her reputation. She knew that her reputation has already preceded her. She knew that she was a nice, virtuous woman. So her mother did not contradict herself and contradict the reputation that she had by telling her to go lay there, because a lot of people think that, oh, she told them to go lay with him. No, she was basically telling her, uncover his feet, let him know that you have need, and when he asks who you are, then you reveal yourself to him. So when she revealed herself to him, she asked him to spread his wings of protection over her. Now, when we read earlier, she had God's wings of protection. So then she goes to the Chayil man and asks him to spread his wing of protection over her. At that point, in modern day times, it's like a marriage proposal. In our eyes, it's a marriage proposal. So he's saying to her, he says, well, what do you want me to do? She says, spread your wing of protection over me as the nearest kinsman. The Chayil man that he is, he was honest and told her, well, there is a nearer kinsman than I. Any other guy would have been like, well, if you want me and you're Ruth and you got it going on like this and I'm the nearest kinsman, well, let's go ahead and make this happen. But he said, no, we're going to do this the right way, because people respected him. And he was a man of wealth and status. He was well known among the elders, just as Proverbs 31 says. He's well known in the city and among the elders. So he said, no, I'm going to go ahead and do this the right way. So he told her, he says, in the morning I'll go before the elders and bring the nearest kinsman in. And when I bring him in, when I bring him in, that's when I will let him know that you are here and that they have this land and that there's the option to redeem or to not redeem. So what I loved about this when I read it, I said, he was so honest. Although he was attracted to her, he was willing to lose her for her to be with someone else and to build someone else up. He was going to let her build someone else's household. He was going to let her build a family with someone else when he, in her mind, was first in line. But he respected and honored her enough, and he feared God enough to say, let me do this the right way, because she went to a godly man. She didn't go to anybody that just looked good, that just smelled good, and he was just popular. She knew what a husband was supposed to be like. She knew that he was supposed to treat her as Christ loved the church, even though Jesus hadn't come yet. But she knew exactly how it was supposed to go. She knew that he was the head of household and how he was supposed to protect her and look after her and how he was supposed to be courageous and how he would defend her honor. She knew exactly what she wanted and what she needed. So when he took that moment, he went out and he told the family member, he said, you know, you're the nearest kinsman. Elimelech has some land. So, would you like to take on this land? He said, well, of course I want to take the land. He said, but if you take the land, you have to take Ruth, the widow, and Naomi. And you know what he did? He said, no, I'm good. That's basically what he said. I'm good. Why did he say, no, I'm good? Because it was said in Deuteronomy, I think it's 23:3, that anyone that was a Moabite would not enter into the assembly of the Lord. So he said, I dare not put my reputation on the line. I dare not jeopardize my inheritance. I will not do that because she is a Moabite. So you can go and have her. And he threw his shoe out there to settle the deal. He said, I am done. Let me throw that sandal out there. I did this in the presence of everybody. It's a done deal. No deal for me. You can have her. I stopped. I said, I wonder if this knucklehead know that she converted. I wonder if he know that she started serving God. Because in that case, she was good. But you have given up this nice, virtuous woman, but it's okay because she got her a good Chayil then. I said, I'm sure Boaz looked good. So she probably was like, whew, we look pretty good together, but I'll stay humble. That's probably how she felt. But I'll stay humble. She got a good Chayil man, but he forfeited because of her past. But Boaz looked past her past, and he said, okay, yeah, you used to do this. Yeah, they knew you by this, but I know you now. I know where you're going. I see your future. I see where you're headed. He actually seen, hey, I see the promised land for you. He loved her, and so that night, they were married, and they went and did what they did. And so after they did everything, what I love was the fact that it comes out she was never barren. God just decided to save the best for last. Because not only did she have a son, come on, but it wasn't just any son. She had Obed, who was the father of Jesse. She had Jesse, who was the father of David. And who came down the line? Jesus. I said she was the great-great-grandmother. I mean, great-great-great-great-grandma of Jesus. I said, you go, Ruth. I said, now that's a Chayil woman. I said, her legacy lived through generations. Through generations. So will our legacy live through generations? Will we be able to live like Ruth, a virtuous woman, through the highs and the lows and still build a legacy that will last and go through generations, and they talk about it for generations to come, saying, oh, but prophetess Donita. Oh, but did you see my Chayil sister Dawn? Oh, what will the legacy be? What will your legacy be that you're leaving behind? Who are you giving birth to? Even if you don't have children, what gifts are you giving birth to that you can pour into others and allow them to birth those gifts to pour into somebody else, and then allow them to birth those gifts. And I looked and I said, if you continue to read Proverbs 31, and we'll continue to do some more studies throughout, you will see how every portion of Proverbs 31 she lived. Every part of it. Her reputation, about the wealth and the clothing, the efficiency and the ability. So I looked up the word virtue somewhere, because you know last time we spoke I told you guys about how I had struggled with insecurity growing up, and I had to make affirmation statements. My mother had me make affirmation statements. And so I said, well, God, I want to look up virtue some more, because I still to this day will make affirmation statements to myself, not because I'm insecure, but just because I have to speak life into myself based on different situations and things that happen to me. And so when I looked at it, I looked at the word virtue, and Google popped up this. And so I have an I am statement for all of us, so that when we're feeling down and we're feeling blue, and we're feeling a little discouraged, we have Chayil virtuous words that are going to encourage us every step of the way. And I'll give it to you in a moment, but it says, I am servanthood, I am hope, I am beauty, I am gratitude, I am humility, I am mercy, I am enthusiasm, I am obedience, I am commitment, creativity, justice, love. I am. I am. So no matter what they are saying to us, I am Chayil woman Phoenicia. I am love. I am gratitude. I am peace. I am servanthood. I am a daughter of the Most High. You can feel as many words all around this as you want to, because it will get bigger and bigger, because of course they didn't get everything that we could. And I'm pretty sure there are words that we can come up with right now that we can add to it. But as a virtuous woman, who are you today? What is the legacy that we're building? Because it has to go on from generation to generation. We have to encourage one another. And we have to say, as long as I have, just like you told her, as long as I have, you have. As long as I'm strengthened, you're strengthened. No sister is going to be left behind. Oh, you have 5 cents? Okay, well, let's go ahead and put it with this that I have, and we're going to go ahead and get that. Oh, you can't afford the whole room for the conference? It's okay. We can be roommates. Me and Proverbs come on and we'll do it quick. Oh, those rooms $130. Okay, well, we're going to split it. Is breakfast included? You got to work that thing out with your sister. Like, okay, hold on. We're going to split this and make it work. Oh, you want some steak? I do too, but you know what? Let's go ahead and go get some steak from the store, because it's cheaper than going to Longhorn. We're going to get us some steak and put it on the grill, and we're going to split this thing and make it work. You can live good and live like a queen, just like Naomi and Ruth. She made sure that her mother-in-law had everything that she needed. So make sure that your sisters and your brothers have everything that they need, because yes, I want you to encourage Chayil woman to Chayil woman, but you may have to encourage a Chayil brother. He might be struggling, and he don't have anybody else to talk to that particular day, and so he just telling you, and y'all sitting there after service, and you like, well, what's going on? Okay, bro, well, come on now. I need you to look at the scripture right here. Okay, well, we're going to pray this through, and then I'm going to link you up with this other Chayil man, and then y'all going to, fire, or iron sharpens iron, and y'all going to be on fire together, but we're going to all get through this. So don't let anybody make you feel like, well, you're a woman, so you can't encourage a man because you can. You can, and then you can pair them up with some other men that's going to encourage them as well. But build them up, and let's build up our youth. Build up our teenagers. Invest time. As much as I don't care to do the children's ministry as much, I tell people all the time, I have graduated from teaching children's church. I have graduated from this children's Sunday school. I be saying that. But if I have to do it again, will I do it? Yes. Because I know that I'm pouring into our future. I know that I am pouring into our next generation. So what are you pouring into the next generation? What are you saying to your children, even though they may have gotten an F in that class? Because it happens sometimes. My mama said she got an F in PE, and my grandma was like, what? But she didn't pour into her like that Chayil woman at the time. She threatened her with an inch of her life, like, you know what, get in at the F in PE. But what are you saying when things like that happen? Yes, it's funny. Everybody laughing like, she got an F in PE. Yeah, she got an F in PE because she didn't want to dress out. But she made it. At the end of the day, she made it, and she passed. She passed PE. But will your children be able to pass that PE class? or that math class, even though you're frustrated because you think that the things that they're doing are petty, because they go through a lot of things. My sister was telling me about recently how an 8-year-old little boy killed himself because he was being bullied. And I said, well, where was their family, friends, who was around them to encourage them? Nobody saw that this baby was struggling with suicidal thoughts and that he was being bullied like this and that he was being picked on and tortured. We as Chayil women have to be on our post praying day in and day out, so that when we see those babies coming and we see our brother and sister, even if it's not the babies, our brother and sister, we can identify that spirit like that. God has been granting me where I can see a spirit and I can call it by name, and that's what it is, and come out. That's the name of the spirit. We need to be sharp so that we know when our brother, our sister, our children, our family members, they are going through and they're suffering, we're able to call these things out. Because there's no reason that 8-year-olds should be killing themselves and hanging themselves at that.
Right.
So they have been exposed to things that they shouldn't have been exposed to, because how would he even know to do that?
Come on.
So again, it's the exposure, the company that we are keeping. All of that builds our reputation, and it builds our children's reputation and legacy. So we have to look at that, because now a mother does not have her child. And I'm not saying that that is her fault by any means. That is not what I'm saying. But we have to make sure that we are on it so that we can help prevent things like this from happening. So no more children left behind. No more sisters left behind. No more brothers left behind. Because we are the Chayil virtuous women like Ruth who are going forward. We're going to shake the nations. We're going to pray and tear up the devil's territory. I'm not playing games with them no more. Are y'all playing games with them?
No.
I switched teams a long time ago. Switched teams. I was like, I'm on God's team. I gotta go. But he's after us because we said yes to God. So now it's time to pick up those mantles. It's time for us to pray. It's time for us to fast. It's time for us to unite and dispel this kingdom of darkness and tell him that enough is enough. But you will not have this neighborhood. You will not have this church. You will not have this community. You will not have this school. There will not be another school shooting, not on my watch, not in this neighborhood, because God has placed me over here to pray for this one. And for a while, I was sitting there fighting with my new apartment. I was moving to another apartment, and I didn't want to go into the other building that they were putting me in. And God had to let me know. He said, but you completed the assignment at this one, because at first it was a little rocky. People was loud, doing all kinds of stuff. I'm praying, people moving in and out. The building became peaceful. He said, now I'm putting you over here because you have work to do over in this one. So now that you have moved, maybe you moved into another job, you moved to another state or city, to another neighborhood, maybe you're going up for a promotion or something. What are you doing with the area that God has given you? What are you doing in your territory? Are you on your post? I don't know why I'm going this way, but God is saying, are you on your post? As my virtuous woman, my praying woman, are you taking control of the atmosphere that you are in? Naturally and spiritually, are you taking control? Are you doing everything that you possibly could be doing to see souls saved in your area and in your region? Are you protecting? Are you defending? Are you honoring? Are you uniting, or are you dividing? It's our job to unite. It's our job to encourage. It's our job to empower. So we have to be like Ruth. We have to encourage. We have to empower and unite with our brothers and sisters and begin to take it by force. So can we all commit to that?
Amen.
Amen. Then I'm done.
Amen,
y'all. So,
Stay there. Hold that up again.
I was going to pass it out.
What does that title look like?
It's
What
on
does it look
Google.
like?
That shape.
Oh yeah, a banner
Banner.
It's a
What is it,
banner.
Jonathan?
It looks like South Carolina.
or an arrow.
Or
I get where you're going now.
It's regional. It looks like South Carolina. Kind of looks like North Carolina, just a little
That's
bit.
what I get from looking at the backside of it. I can see North Carolina.
North Carolina.
So this is our region.
This is us.
Amen.
We pass this out to you.